How to Win Friends and Influence People Summary. The self-help classic How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie reads like a life manual. The fundamental tenet is that modifying your own behavior is all it takes to influence others' actions. It imparts the knowledge necessary to better understand people, make friends more easily, build stronger bonds with coworkers, and persuade others to follow your direction. Basic methods for handling people. Avoid critiquing, condemning, or complaining. Express real and heartfelt gratitude. Create an urgent desire in the other person. How to win people over, 6 steps. Develop a sincere interest in other people. Smile. Keep in mind that a person's name is the sweetest and most significant sound in any language to that individual. Pay attention carefully. Encourage people to share their own stories. Discuss the interests of the other person. Genuinely make the other person feel important. How to persuade others to think like you. Staying out of a debate is the only surefire way to win one. Be respectful of other people's viewpoints. Never tell someone they're incorrect. If you are mistaken, immediately and vehemently admit it. Start off on a positive note. Promptly get the other person to say yes, yes. Give the other person a lot of the talking time. Give the impression that the other person came up with the concept. Make an honest effort to consider other people's perspectives. Show compassion for the other person's goals and aspirations. Speak to the better intentions. Make your thoughts dramatic. Issue a challenge. How to change people without offending them or creating resentment. Start with genuine acclaim and admiration. Indirectly draw attention to people's errors. Discuss your own errors before blaming someone else. Question rather than provide orders directly. Allow the other person to maintain face. Highlight each and every progress, no matter how small. Be hearty in your approval and profuse in your praise, the Bible says. Assign the other individual a high standard to uphold. Encourage others. Make the error look simple to fix. Encourage the other person to follow your advice by making them pleased. Part 1. Basic Human Handling Techniques. First principle: refrain from complaining, criticizing, or judging. Most people rarely, if ever, hold themselves accountable for their mistakes. Criticism is hazardous and pointless. A person becomes defensive and frequently tries to defend himself. Additionally, it corrodes a person's priceless pride, diminishes his sense of significance, and fosters animosity. When they are rewarded for good behavior rather than penalized for bad behavior, people learn more quickly and retain information more efficiently. By criticizing, we rarely affect long-term behavior and frequently cause anger. When dealing with people, let us remember we are not dealing with creatures of logic. We are dealing with creatures of emotion, creatures bristling with prejudices and motivated by pride and vanity. Everybody is free to criticize, condemn, and complain. To be empathetic and forgiving, though, requires character and restraint. Principle 2. Express real and sincere gratitude. Giving someone what they want is the only way to get them to accomplish anything. What is the common desire? Health, money, food, and sex. All except one of these desires, the need to be important, are typically satisfied. You want to talk about your smart kids, drive the newest automobiles, and wear the newest fashions because of this ambition. I can identify you if you tell me where you obtain your sense of importance. Your character is determined by that. How do you convey importance to others? By appreciation and encouragement. I have yet to find the person, however great or exalted his station, who did not do better work and put forth greater effort under a spirit of approval than he would ever do under a spirit of criticism. Understand the difference between flattery and appreciation. The former is unanimously praised, whereas the latter is universally despised. Flattery is egotistical and fake. It's unworthy praise. You express to the other person exactly how he views himself. Over time, flattery will really work against you. Appreciation is honest and selfless. It occurs when we begin to focus on the positive aspects of the other person rather than on ourselves. People will value and repeat your comments throughout their lives, even years after you have forgotten them, if you are hearty in your approval and extravagant in your praise. Principle 3. Create an ardent desire in the other person. You are naturally curious about what you want. Nobody else is, though. Like you, the rest of us are only interested in what we want. The only way to sway other people is to discuss their desires and demonstrate how to obtain them. In the words of Henry Ford, if there is any one secret of success, it lies in the ability to get the other person's point of view and see things from that person's angle as well as from your own. This does not entail coercing someone into acting in your favor at the expense of his best interests. The negotiation should be successful for both parties. Part 2. 6 Ways to Win Friendships. The first rule is to show genuine interest in other people. You won't make many real friends if all you do is try to impress people and pique their curiosity. That is not how true friends are created. Put yourself out there to do things for others that demand time, effort, selflessness, and consideration if you want to develop friends. When someone is interested in us, we are interested in them as well. Like every other rule of interpersonal communication, expressing curiosity must be genuine. It must be profitable for both the one attracting attention and the person giving it. Both parties gain from it, thus it is a two-way street. Rule 2. Smile. Actions speak louder than words, and a smile says, I like you. You make me happy. I am glad to see you. If you want people to like meeting you, you must enjoy meeting them first. Make an effort to smile. If you're by yourself, make an effort to whistle, hum, or sing. Acting as though you are already joyful will usually make you joyful. Mind your own business. Happiness is a result of internal factors, not external ones. You are not happy or sad because of what you have, who you are, where you are, or what you are doing. It is what you perceive it to be. Shakespeare had the last word. There is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Your grin spreads positivity and makes everyone you come in contact with happier. Your smile is like the light breaking through the clouds to someone who has witnessed a dozen individuals grimace, frown, or turn their faces away. Rule 3. Keep in mind that a person's name is the sweetest and most significant sound in any language to that individual. The typical person is more fascinated by their own name than by all the other names combined. Remember that name and call it easily, and you have paid a subtle and very effective compliment. But forget it or misspell it and you have placed yourself at a sharp disadvantage. For the simple reason that they don't take the time and effort necessary to concentrate, repeat, and permanently imprint names in their memories, the majority of people struggle to remember names. The fourth rule is to listen carefully. Encourage others to share their stories. Be an excellent listener if you want to have successful conversations. Be interested in order to be intriguing. Pose inquiries that the other person will find enjoyable to respond to. Encourage them to discuss their accomplishments and self-worth. Keep in mind that individuals are far more concerned with themselves, their desires, and their problems than they are with you and your issues. The next time you strike up a conversation, keep it in mind. Rule 5. Talk about the interests of the other person. Everyone enjoys talking about themselves. The things they enjoy are a particular issue. Roosevelt often stayed up late the night before a visitor, reading up on the subject he thought his friend would be particularly interested in. Roosevelt understood that the best way to a person's heart is to discuss the things that person values most. Rule 6. Genuinely make the other person feel important. Make the other person feel important at all times, it's one fundamental rule of human behavior. If we follow that law, we won't have many problems. If we follow the law, we'll make a ton of friends and always be happy. However, we will face unending difficulties the moment we breach the law. Give to others as we would like to receive from them. How? When? Where? Constantly and everywhere. Small words like, I'm sorry to bother you, would you please do dash? Won't you kindly? Would you please? Thank you. Small kindnesses like these lubricate the gears of the drudgery of daily existence, and incidentally, they are the most people you encounter have some sort of arrogance toward you. Allowing them to sense subtly that you genuinely value them is a surefire method to win their hearts. Talk to people about themselves, said Disraeli, one of the shrewdest men who ever ruled the British Empire. Talk to people about themselves and they will listen for hours. Part 3, How to Persuade Others to Share Your Opinion. First rule, avoiding arguments is the only way to achieve the best results from them. Most disagreements result in each party being even more certain than before that he is correct. You cannot prevail in a debate. You lose it if you lose it, and you lose it even if you win it. When you prevail in a debate, you denigrate the opposing viewpoint. His pride is wounded, and he will be angry about your success. According to Ben Franklin, if you argue and rankle and contradict, you may achieve a victory sometimes, but it will be an empty victory because you will never get your opponent's goodwill. Make a commitment to carefully consider your opponent's ideas. And sincerely. Maybe your opponents are right. Instead of moving quickly and putting yourself in a situation where your opponents can claim, we tried to inform you, but you wouldn't listen, it is far easier to agree to consider their ideas now. Sincere gratitude for the interest from your opponents. Anybody who takes the time to disagree with you has similar interests to yours. You may be able to convert your adversaries into allies if you think of them as people who wish to aid you. Put off taking any action so that both parties can consider the issue. Encourage the holding of a new meeting later that day. Rule 2. Be respectful of other people's viewpoints. Never tell someone they're incorrect. By telling someone they are mistaken, you are directly insulting their pride, intelligence, and self-respect. They won't ever want to agree with you, and you won't be able to persuade them to change their beliefs. Never reveal what you are intending to prove to anyone. Keep it subtle. Galileo noted. You cannot teach a man anything, you can only help him to find it within himself. When someone makes a statement that you know is wrong, say, well, now, look. I thought otherwise, but I may be wrong. I frequently am. And if I am wrong, I want to be put right. Let's examine the facts. Third rule. Admit your errors as soon as possible and vehemently. It is far preferable to act first and correct the other person if we know we will be corrected anyhow. It is simpler to listen to oneself criticize than to endure judgment from strangers. Say all the negative things about yourself that you know the other person is going to think, want to say, and say them before they have a chance to. A certain kind of satisfaction comes from having the guts to acknowledge your mistakes. It not only clears the air of guilt and defensiveness, but it also frequently aids in resolving the issue brought on by the error. When you are right, try to win people gently and tactfully to our way of thinking. When you are wrong, and that will be surprisingly often, if you are honest with yourself, admit your mistakes quickly and with enthusiasm. In addition to being more entertaining than attempting to defend oneself, this strategy will provide astounding results. By fighting you never get enough, but by conceding you get more than you imagined, says the saying. Fourth rule, make a good first impression. You must first persuade someone that you are his true buddy in order to win them around to your cause. More readily than all the bluster and storming in the world, people can be persuaded to change their beliefs by a pleasant approach and expression of gratitude. Lincoln once said, "A drop of honey captures more flies than a gallon of gall." Rule of 5, immediately elicit a yes from the other person. When speaking with someone, start by highlighting the points you both agree on and continuing doing so. If at all possible, keep stressing that you are both working for the same goal and that the only thing separating you is procedure, not purpose. Get the other person to start by saying, yes. Prevent them from rejecting you. The most challenging obstacle to overcome is a no response. All your personality pride demands that you be true to who you are. You feel obligated to keep to what you've said once you've said it. The persuasive speaker immediately receives a number of yes responses. This gets the listener's psychological responses going in the right way. Ask a kind question instead of correcting someone when you're inclined to do so, a question that will elicit a resounding yes, yes. Sixth rule, give the other person a lot of the talking to do. Most people who are trying to convince others of their point of view talk too much themselves. Let the others resolve themselves through discussion. Pose questions to them. Don't interrupt when you disagree with them. Be patient and receptive when you are listening. Sincerity is key. Encourage them to completely express their thoughts. Even our friends would much rather discuss their accomplishments with us than hear us brag about ours. The French philosopher La Rochefoucauld said, "If you want enemies, excel your friends, but if you want friends, let your friends excel you." When our friends outperform us, they feel significant. Nevertheless, when we outperform them, some of them will feel inadequate and jealous. Rule 7, give the other person the impression that the idea is theirs. People are more likely to believe ideas they come up with on their own than ones that are presented to them. Don't try to force your beliefs down other people's throats. Instead, offer ideas and ask others to consider the outcome. Nobody enjoys the sensation of being pressured into buying something or acting in a certain way. We greatly prefer to believe that our purchases or actions are the result of our own free will. We prefer to have our goals, needs, and thoughts taken into consideration. Rule of 8, make a sincere effort to consider other people's perspectives. Others might be mistaken. They do not, however. Try to understand them rather than judge them. The other man thinks and behaves in the manner that he does for a reason. Discover that motive, and you'll have the answer to his behavior and perhaps even his personality. Consider yourself in his shoes. A sympathetic understanding of the other person's perspective is essential for interpersonal success. Cooperativeness in conversation is achieved when you show that you consider the other person's ideas and feelings as important as your own. Starting your conversation by giving the other person the purpose or direction of your conversation, governing what you say by what you would want to hear if you were the listener, and accepting his or her viewpoint will encourage the listener to have an open mind to your ideas. Always ask yourself, why should he want to do it? This will take time, but it will avoid making enemies and will get better results. Rules of 9. Be understanding of the other person's thoughts and desires. "I don't blame you for feeling as you do" is a magic phrase to put an end to conflicts, get rid of bad feelings, foster goodwill, and make the other person pay attention. "I'm sure I would feel the same way as you do if I were you." Anyone would be won over by that response. And you can say so with complete sincerity because, of course, you would feel the same way he does if you were the other person. Many people you encounter want to be understood. If you give it to them, they'll adore your. Rule 10, speak to the better intentions. A person typically has two motivations for doing something, a real motivation and one that makes sense. The genuine cause will come to mind for the individual. That doesn't need to be emphasized. But because we are all idealists at heart, we enjoy thinking of noble intentions. In order to persuade others to change, use better intentions. Rule 11, dramatize what you say. Dramatization day is today. Just telling the truth is insufficient. It's important to make the truth compelling, dramatic, and vivid. You must employ showmanship. It's done in movies. The media does it. And if you want attention, you'll have to do it. The 12th rule is to issue a challenge. Encourage competition by utilizing the desire to succeed as a motivator. All men have fears, but the brave overcome them and move forward, sometimes risking their lives, but always coming out on top. The task itself is the only significant aspect that inspires people. The worker looks forward to performing the work and is driven to do a good job if it was engaging and intriguing. Every successful individual enjoys playing games. The ability to express oneself. The opportunity to succeed, to win, and to demonstrate one's value. The need for a sense of significance. Part 4. Be a leader. Principle 1. Start by praising and appreciating something. After hearing some positive feedback about our strengths, it is often easier to hear bad things. Principle 2. Subtly draw attention to people's errors. Many critics start off by sincerely praising the subject, then add the word, but and a critical opinion. For example, "We're proud of you, Johnny, for raising your grades this term. But if you had worked harder on your algebra, the results would have been better." When Johnny first heard the word "but," he might have been inspired. He begins to doubt the authenticity of the initial compliment. It appeared to be nothing more than a staged introduction to a dire conclusion of failure. We probably wouldn't succeed in changing Johnny's attitude about his studies, and credibility would suffer. This might be easily avoided by switching the word "but" for the word "and." So, for example, "We're glad of you, Johnny, for improving your grades this term, and by continuing the same diligent work next term, your math grade can be up with all the others." Johnny would now take the compliment because there was no indication of failure in the wake of the compliment. Since we indirectly attracted his attention to the behavior we wanted to alter, the likelihood is that he will make an effort to live up to our expectations. With sensitive persons who would reject any direct criticism, drawing attention to one's errors in a subtly constructive manner works wonders. Principle 3. Before criticizing someone else, discuss your own errors. If the critic begins by sincerely confessing that he, too, is far from perfect, it makes it a lot easier to listen to a list of your failings. Even if one hasn't fixed them, admitting one's own errors can persuade someone to alter his conduct. Principle 4. Ask questions rather than giving orders directly. In addition to making an order more appetizing, asking questions frequently inspires the ingenuity of the people you ask. If a person participated in the decision that led to the order's issuance, they are more inclined to accept it. Principle 5. Let the other person keep their face. When it comes to getting our way, finding fault, making threats, or criticizing a child or an employee in public, we often disregard the pain that does to the other person's pride. Whereas a moment or two of reflection, a kind word or two, and a sincere appreciation of the other person's perspective would go a long way to soften the blow. The next time we have the unpleasant duty of firing or criticizing an employee, let's keep that in mind. Even if we are correct and the other person is incorrect, we will simply hurt someone's ego by making them look bad. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, a renowned author and French aviation pioneer, penned the following: "I have no right to say or do anything that diminishes a man in his own eyes. What matters is not what I think of him, but what he thinks of himself. Hurting a man in his dignity is a crime." Principle 6. Highlight any improvement, no matter how small. The core idea behind B.F. Skinner's teachings is the use of praise rather than criticism. The leading contemporary psychologist has demonstrated through tests on both humans and animals that when praise and criticism are balanced, people's positive actions are reinforced while their negative ones wither away from lack of attention. Everyone enjoys receiving praise, but when it's particular, it seems sincere rather than like something the other person is saying to make them feel good. Keep in mind that everyone yearns for praise and recognition, and I'll say it again, the ideas presented in this book only function when they are genuine. I do not support having a variety of skills. I'm referring to a new way of living. Discussing modifying humans. We can accomplish far more than just affecting people's behavior if you and I can persuade those with whom we come into contact to recognize the hidden treasures they hold. We are able to change them. When talents are criticized, they wither. When they are praised, they flourish. Principle 7. Set a high standard for the other person to live up to. Act as though a certain quality were already one of a person's best qualities if you wish to enhance that person in that way. Shakespeare once penned the line, "Assume a virtue, if you lack it." Additionally, it would be a good idea to openly presume that other people already possess the virtue you wish to see them acquire. Give them a good reputation to uphold, and they will do extraordinary effort so they don't have to witness your disappointment. Principle 8. Utilize encouragement, make it appear simple to fix the issue. When you tell your child, spouse, or co-worker that they are bad at something, don't have the talent for it, or are doing it incorrectly, you nearly completely eliminate all motivation to attempt to do better. However, if you adopt the opposite strategy, be generous with your support, make the task appear simple, let the other person know that you have faith in his capacity to complete it and that he has a natural talent for it, he will practice until the opportunity to succeed arises. The principle 9 is to get the other person excited about doing what you recommend. Always encourage the other person to do the action you recommend. Here are some pointers for interpreting someone's behavior. Be genuine. Never make a promise that you can't keep. Focus on the advantages for the other person instead of your own rewards. Clearly define what you want the other person to do. Show empathy. Think about what the other person wants. Take into account the advantages that individual will experience if they follow your advice. Align those advantages with the other person's desires. When you make your request, be sure to do so in a way that will make it clear to the other person that he will gain from it. A request would sound something like this: John, I need the stockroom cleaned up because we have clients coming in tomorrow. Clear it out and arrange the items in orderly piles on the shelves.